Okay. We're gonna get you through all that today and hopefully give you a lot of tips. Again, like John said, there will be a Q&A session afterward. Also, we're in booth 941. If you have any questions, feel free to stop by and talk to us after the presentation.
We really appreciate everybody coming down.
I think you guys got to stay back. The speakers are there.
Sorry, we're working out the sound thing.
How's this? Okay. Really appreciate everybody coming down. I just want to tell you guys a little bit about how this all came about. I'd actually made a call to Vicki Hart, the lady that does this show, to ask her if we could do this. And the reason is because we've run across so many things over the years, and so many people over the years that have hired the wrong contractor or run into issues, and it's just really hurt some folks and kind of left them with nothing but a mess. So we're trying to help with that a little bit, and we just are really grateful for this show and for the opportunity to do this. So a couple of questions to get things moving here. Who here has hired a contractor before? Any type of contractor, okay? Next question is, who here knows somebody, yourself or somebody else, who has a bad contractor story? Okay, good.
That's pretty low. I thought it was going to be more than that.
It is. So we're just trying to give you a little insight to kind of help you avoid that. So what we're going to do is we're going to just ask a couple of questions. You guys just kind of shout out yes or no. And we got little prizes up here. If you're right, we're going to give you 100 grand. And if you're wrong, we're going to give you an airhead. My brother's a lousy throw. We forgot our safety goggles for you guys, so just be careful. So one thing we want to ask you right off is, should you tell your contractor your budget up front, yes or no? Yes.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. This is still really ringing, isn't it?
Yeah. I think you've got to scoot back, stand back.
Okay.
We make stuff out of wood. We're not so much with the sounds and the microphones and whatnot.
All right. We'll try the next thing. Normally I don't even need a microphone, but okay. So the next thing we want to ask is, should you pay your contractor 100% of the project up front? Ever? All right. There's a couple of no's. Throw it out.
Lady in blue.
Throw it out. Thank you. Thank you. All right. Because if they're paid up front to do nothing, that's exactly what they'll do. All right. How about this? Should you ask your... Should we turn off the microphones, yes or no?
No.
Just keep going.
Just keep going.
All right.
Just don't get too close together.
Just don't move, right? Okay. All right, I lost my... Okay. Proof of insurance. Should you guys... Yes. Absolutely have proof of insurance. Yes, thank you very much.
All the way in the back.
All right.
We probably should have passed out helmets.
Should you have an agreement, and it should be in writing before anything starts?
Yes.
Yes. We're running out of the good stuff, bro. All right. Here's one of our particular favorites. Are all online reviews of a contractor 100% accurate? Yes or no? No. Not at all. Not even by a long shot. And the next thing is, and this actually wasn't supposed to make it up here, can my brother throw at all? Thank you. Hit that guy right there.
That guy deserves 100 grand.
All right. So, there we go. Next slide.
We're here to help you because hiring a good contractor and hiring a bad contractor can be the difference between beautiful and broke. What you see here on this side over here is part of a larger bathroom renovation. We actually did 3 bathrooms for the client, painted the inside of their house, painted the outside of their house. Very, very happy client. So that's what it can look like. On the other side is... We got Homer Simpson. My brother's obviously a huge fan.
Turn it up.
Turn it up.
Turn it up?
Turn it up.
Yeah.
We're sorry, people. We're really trying.
Thank you, Paul. All right, is that good? Thank you. Okay, all right. Okay, so if you didn't like the sound of my voice before, I hope this is maybe better. All right, my brother's a huge fan of Homer Simpson, and we happen to find this. Obviously, Homer hired the wrong contractor, left him with a mess. He has nothing but pity and despair in his face, and he's full of anguish, and his pockets are empty.
A lot of shame in those eyes, people. Don't let this be you.
All right, so let's start off by talking about the uncomfortable question. Let's talk about the budget question. Okay, the reason a contractor wants to come out to your house and ask you about your budget before he starts is to make sure that your vision is a reality for you. You know, a lot of times I tell people all the time, I'm not in your profession. I can never pretend to go into your job and do a good job with what you're doing. You know, part of this process for you is the education process to come in and bring people in who are experts in the field and have them help you with this sort of thing. Otherwise, you do it yourself. So a contractor is really going to ask you, if he's a good contractor, what your budget is and try to make your vision work within that project if he or she really cares about you. We've all had that story of going to that car lot, right? And you meet that salesperson and you say, hey, you know, I want to buy a car for $7,000, and he immediately takes you to the row of cars that cost $10,000. We're not trying to run away with your pocketbook, but we do want to make sure that we help you, you know, turn this into reality. And just asking this first question really starts projects off the right way, so that way everybody's on the same page.
You always want to keep 15% of the budget for your project set aside for unexpected things. Believe it or not, contractors do not have X-ray vision. No matter how many carrots I eat before I go to bed at night, I don't wake up the next day and I'm not able to see through walls. A good way to do this is, like I said, just keep it set aside, and that way, if we open up the wall and we find a pile of razors, like we've done before, or we find an electrical outlet that has been wired with speaker wire, which we have found before, or we find a loaded shotgun, which we have found before, we can take care of all that stuff. And you've already got this portion of your budget set aside so it doesn't hurt you as much. The other great thing is when everything goes to plan, you have this pool of money set aside so you can add to the project, you can do a different project, or you can take Ryan and myself out to eat. I love steak.
And your wife.
You love steak. And their wives, my wife is saying.
Take a new shotgun to the range, you know, whatever works for you. Okay, here's another one. We always like to have people just have some dialogue with your spouse or business partner before you ever make the phone call. And really what that boils down to is just, it saves so many delays on a project. It saves so much headache between the contractor and even between the spouse and their business partners, because people generally fall into roles that are right for them. And what I mean by that is, usually, you know, between spouses, there's that person that is a little more design-minded. That person really likes to pick things out, really likes to go shopping, and the other person wants nothing to do with it. Okay, that's normally the guy. The guy wants nothing to do with that. He just wants the good toilet. That's usually the way that works out. Some people are a little more available at work to take phone calls and emails if something were to come up. That's something to consider. Generally speaking, you know, if you have these things set aside and you have that budget conversation before a contractor arrives, it just really speeds things up, and it really makes the project go well. You know, our little tagline in our business is, we want you to enjoy your project, not survive it. Now, one little other thing with that is, if you're considering something that is a large-scale project, say you're considering an addition, a large remodel, a deck, or a large basement remodel, it's a great idea to hire an independent architect or designer to get that vision on a piece of paper, so that every contractor is bidding on the same thing. A lot of us contractors can handle design and build, but what you're going to get is 3 different versions of what you said, 3 different interpretations, and you're not going to get an apples-to-apples price.
You always want to get at least 3 estimates on any project that you do. And an estimate means something in writing. It's not something somebody wrote on a pizza box. It's not something somebody told you over the phone. And again, like my brother said, you want to get an apples-to-apples comparison so that every line item matches everything you put in. And sometimes you have conversations with different contractors and questions that they ask that other contractors don't, things like that. You also want to be especially wary of very large differences in price. We had one client that we did an estimate for, and it was for about $25,000. And when I called her up to follow up to see if she had accepted the estimate, she was actually very rude to me, and she said, I've got somebody who's going to do it for $10,000. And I said, ma'am, I said, listen, you don't have to hire me, but I cannot even purchase the material for your job for what this other person is saying they're going to do the whole project for. So just take a minute and think in your mind, how do you think that project turned out?
All right. Continuing on the budget conversation, we'll talk a little bit about down payment, okay? In our business in particular, and with most professional contractors, we're going to ask for a down payment of around 30%. And that covers the first week or so of labor and some of the system materials and things like that to get the project going. and to get you on the schedule. That way, we can get you locked in the schedule and keep you apprised of when your project's going to be happening. One of the big things that changes that number a little bit is if you are considering a project that has a lot of special order materials. A couple of really big examples that change the numbers quite a bit are if you're considering a kitchen with custom cabinetry, or anything special order item. A lot of times these days, we're in a global economy. We're ordering things from all over the world now. We're ordering tile and things like that from all over the world. And when we as a contractor are go shopping for you and go purchase those items, we as a contractor actually have to purchase those from our vendor and pay for those up front in full, so that way that is ordered. And those, as you might have guessed, at that point are not returnable. So if the project doesn't go through or there's a design change, those materials have to be paid for up front.
You always want to ask everyone who's submitting an estimate for your project what their payment structure is, what their draw structure. Like my brother said, we typically get about 30% down plus any special order materials. Now let's take a project, let's say you're getting your bathroom done. This is about a 2-week project. Let's say your budget is $15,000. So our down payment is $5,000 plus any special order materials. Their next draw payment should not be until a certain amount of the project is complete. What I typically do is say, let us work for 5 days, or let us get the tub and the tile set before you give us another check. And you don't give the last check out until you've walked the project with your contractor, you've signed off and said, this is my dream, this is my Taj Mahal, this is my everything. And at that point, you release payment, not before then.
Okay. I want to talk to you a little about research that you're going to do on the companies. Okay. First thing I would encourage you to do, above and beyond anything, ask your neighbors, your friends, your colleagues, your family. Ask anybody that you trust if they know a contractor who has done work for them that they had a good experience with. Because that is a satisfied customer. That is a testimony that you've already eliminated one variable right there that, this person did what they said they were going to do and made somebody else happy. The other thing, you guys have already made a wonderful investment to come down here to the Home and Garden Show. The reason this is a great event is because you can meet everybody that you would be interested in talking to right here and talk to them, get to know a little bit about them before you ever make the phone call. And it's so much better than just picking a line item out of the phone book. Other standbys are, of course, the Better Business Bureau. They do ratings and reviews now also. You can find that, companies like ours have an A+ rating, and every company is rated. Angie's List, that is another wonderful resource if you happen to be in that community, Angie's List community. Make sure and check that out. But also other free items that everybody knows about, Google, and probably slightly lesser known would be Yelp.
Remember that not all reviews and testimonials are good ones. For example, if someone says their father's brother's nephew's cousin did something and you've never met that person, that might not be a quality review. Or if you go online and you find something that the person has not taken the time to correct any errors in grammar or spelling, it's probably not a quality review.
All right. We've all had that job interview, and this is what we like you to treat this like. When you bring that contractor, you want to treat this like a job interview. Take a look at how the contractor presents themselves. Are they respectful of your home? What do they show up in? That sort of thing. We pulled up to a job one time where the guy checked out the dashboard of our truck actually and said he wouldn't even let us in the house unless the dashboard of our truck didn't look like the filing cabinet that was blown apart. And everybody has those things that are important to them. But again, treat this like a job interview. Is the contractor on time? Is this person willing to ask questions? Does this person get excited about your project? This person may be in your home for some period of time, and you'd like to have them have a level of enthusiasm that you have about your home. Do you feel that they are approachable? And don't be afraid also to ask maybe some out-of-the-box questions. Do they do any community outreach? Do they have any framework practices? Anything that might help you isolate whether or not that company's value system lines up with your family's value system.
Any good contractor will have plenty of references available for you to review. References can be in a lot of different forms. They can be photos of before and after work. Just make sure the description of the project matches the pictures. Believe it or not, there are con artists out there who will take work that other people have done off the internet, pictures of that, and pass it off as their own. Make sure that everything matches up. A Another great resource is sometimes you have clients that are so happy that they don't mind if potential new clients call them. Those are pretty rare, but they're great. Another huge one is if the client will physically let you come to their house and show you the work that our company or another company did for them. Those are rare indeed, but if you're considering a project, it can be really worth your time.
All right, rapport. This is something that we feel like is very important. And everybody's going to have that different level, okay? But basically, look at it like this. You're hiring a short-term or possibly long-term house guest. Now, hopefully, if all goes well, none of us are going to be sleeping on your couch. But the thing is that you're going to be dealing with this person for a long period of time, potentially. They're going to be in your home and potentially unsupervised for long periods of time. You know, what does your gut tell you about this person? We would really ask that you take a look at this person and how they present themselves and how you feel with this person. And if you have a gut feeling that something just isn't right, we really ask that you listen to that and maybe move on. You know, any contractor who is proud of what they do is going to be very, very proud to show off their work, answer any questions. Anybody who enjoys being a service business is going to act like it. They're going to be happy talking through the process because they're actually happy they're there. If they're not, then you may want to consider that person may not be right for you. They may be doing something through something that just is taking them away from focusing on their business.
When screening your companies, always make sure that they are able to present you a copy of their certificate of insurance, okay? If they're not willing to do this, don't hire them. They also should have workers' compensation on all their employees. It's very, very, very important because accidents do happen. We've been in business 10 years and we've only had one accident that was fully covered by workers' compensation insurance. So the client didn't have to worry about any liability as far as that's concerned. You also want to make sure that any subcontractors that the general contractor is using are listed as additionally insured on their policy. That's very important as well.
All right. So the next thing is just ask whoever you're hiring. Ask them if they background check their employees. You know, you would not believe my brother and I have just been absolutely floored sometimes what you can cover up when screening a potential employee on a background check. So that's a good question. Just would ask that you ask that.
Remember, with the people that you're thinking about hiring, ask them what their typical work schedule is. At Biehl Brothers, our typical schedule is Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. We will occasionally work a Saturday if the homeowner wants the job done quicker, or if some of the guys want overtime, and we ask the client to say, hey, is it okay? And if they say yes, then we'll do it. The only time we work on a Sunday is if it's the Cincinnati Home and Garden Show, or somebody's bleeding from the head and it's a major emergency.
All right. So the next thing is, an estimate is truly that. An estimate is just an estimate until the contract is signed. I think most of us know that, you know, a written agreement definitely has so much more power than a verbal agreement. And just, you know, a lot of people have been very, very excited about getting the project going, but don't let your excitement override, you know, the process. Make sure that that agreement is signed and is available to you up front.
You want to always ask if building permits are required for your project. Ask every single person that you have there. Sometimes they are, sometimes they're not. One of the great things about getting a building permit is that you know you have someone who is totally objective, other than yourself, with eyes on the project, and to make sure it's been done right. The other thing is they can pass that information on to their insurance company, and you always want to make sure you tell your insurance company when you've had remodeling done. For example, if you had your basement finished and you didn't tell your insurance company that you had your basement finished and then you ended up having a fire, your improvements might not be covered. So that's hugely, hugely important. Also, if you're going to sell your home, you can present these permits and these tags to the potential home buyer to let them know that this is remodeling that you've had done the right way.
All right. So the next thing we want to do is we're giving you a little information now that you can start to ask when you go through that interview screening process. I want to make sure when the work does start, your contractor's organized. You know, at the end of the day, we try to make it a practice, you know, to keep things in the corner of a basement or a garage, something of that nature. Unplug saws and lights, especially where there's children around. We love our little supervisors, you know, and we love to keep them safe. So we want to make sure that, you know, all that's kind of tucked away. You know, an organized job and a clean job is a job that typically goes much, much better. So You want to make sure that that's a part of the process. And a quality contractor, don't be surprised if a quality contractor will even have line item cleaning charges included in his estimates.
The crew that does the work on your project and the person who gives you the estimate, any representative from the company should be punctual. Things happen. They should always have your contact information so they can call you if they're running late. But generally speaking, if someone doesn't show up on time, that says they don't respect you and they don't respect your time in your home. Another huge thing is, how many people here have made a mistake at their job at some point or another? Okay, believe it or not, contractors are no different. Sometimes we make mistakes, but the difference between a good contractor and a bad contractor is someone who's going to own up to their mistakes and they're going to make it right. For example, we had a bathroom that we did on the west side of town. It's a beautiful bathroom. My client was super, super happy. About a week later, she gives me a call. She says, Chase, I need you to come back over to the house. I said, okay, what is it? We had done her floor in 3x3 tiles, and they were marble. And marble has a grain to it. And now and again, sometimes those grains will stick up. And she said, when I get in and out of the shower in the morning before I go to work, that scratches my feet. So I went over there, I ripped it out. It took me about 3 hours to pull it out and put it back in. And she said, thank you so much. And I said, this is part of my job. Any good contractor will make it right and will make your vision a reality. And the other thing to remember is I will never use your bathroom or your basement the same way that you're going to use it. I will never stumble to your shower at 6 o'clock in the morning with bare feet to get a shower.
We hope.
We can all hope. We can all hope. So, again, a good contractor and the difference between a good contractor and a bad contractor is someone who owns up to their mistakes and makes it right.
All right. One thing I really encourage people to do, I do most of the upfront sales in our company. One of the things I really encourage people to do, when you start dreaming about a project, okay, when you're getting excited and everything, from concept to completion, keep a file. So some of you folks, that is the manila file folder. Some people are Pinterest people, and I have met those people that are the Excel people, okay? Seem to fall in one of three categories. But the point is right when you start thinking about a project, keep everything in one place. And as the things move along, things progress, there are fixture selections, there are conversations, contracts and quotes, things like that, change orders that may happen. And we really want to make sure that you keep everything in one place, especially as the project wraps up, because you just never know, especially as things go on, that you may have installed an appliance or a fixture or something like that may have a warranty issue, and that may be the real difference between having something with paperwork to back it up that you may pay absolutely nothing for, or you may be coming out of pocket at that point for something that you really shouldn't have if you have all your records in a good place.
Always keep in touch with your contractor before the process and then throughout the project. All the people on the crew should have your contact information and should know the best way to get a hold of you. Before we start a project, I always ask people, what is your preferred mode of communication? How many people here think smartphones are dumb phones? Anybody? Okay.
There's one.
There's one, okay? Some people, they like me to email them. At any point in time, they can pull up their phone, they can look at their email, and they can respond to me really quick without disrupting their day. Other people will not come within a smartphone or a computer within 10 feet, and that's okay too, but I need to know that so I can call you or hand deliver it to you, or if I need to send a carrier pigeon. Whatever I need to do, that's what I'm going to do, and that's the difference between a good contractor and a bad contractor.
All right, so we're getting ready to wrap the process up here, and we're kind of coming to completion. Now, in our business, we always like, as the project starts to wrap up, we want to make sure that you really take the time over the last couple days of the project to look things over and make sure things are right, make sure things meet your specifications. Again, this is really critical to establish the rapport with the contractor, that comfort level with the contractor, because towards the end, you're going to always have a little bit of a punch list, little things that need touch up and that sort of thing, and that's where that relationship really comes into play. You want to make sure that you evaluate things, take some time and look at things, hopefully too, in different parts of the day. The sunlight at the beginning of the day is totally different in the middle than at the end. And you'd be surprised what you can find. So really take a good look and look things over well and make sure that it meets your specifications. Then don't release the money, 100% of the money, until the project is completed. Now, there's one exception to that. A lot of times with today's newer kitchens and bathrooms and things like that, again, going back to some of the custom order features of today's home improvements, you may have a countertop, a stone countertop, or shower glass that is special order. And those measurements can absolutely not be taken with any accuracy until the cabinets are set, tiles in, and all that sort of thing. And then oftentimes those pieces of the project arrive weeks after, 2 to 3 weeks, 4 weeks sometimes, after the project is completed substantially. So at that point, what you want to do is keep a deposit on the contractor, $500, something like that, to make sure that they come back, and then rewalk the process again. Any good contractor will be very, very happy when that is really completed and all those things are dropped into place, to go through that with you one more time to make sure you are very happy.
And once the project is complete, you want to give your contractor a review, whether it's verbal, whether it's written, and just be honest with them. When the project is over, I will look you in the eye and I will say, give me a grade from A+ to F-. My wife is a kindergarten teacher, okay? That's where I learned that. And the construction industry is ever growing, ever changing. It's always a learning process. We cannot learn, we cannot grow without your honest feedback. And this is just kind of a fun memory device thing. We use the acronym BROKE, and you know, just kind of, if you want to sketch this down and kind of keep it for your memory or a reference, that'd be great. At this point, we're going to open up the floor to question and answer. So if anybody has any questions, fire away.
Somebody's got to go first. Somebody's got to go first.
There's nothing else anybody wants to know. I'll give you candy.
Yeah, does anybody want any more candy?
I'll bribe you, I don't care.
Yeah, we're not afraid to talk. Well, good.
Yes, ma'am, in the blue.
How do you go about finding an architect? I don't see it.
Finding an architect.
To what? The lady asked me, how do you find a good architect or a good designer? Usually, contractors will always have a couple people that they know that do those kinds of things. We have a great designer, actually 2 great designers. We have a great architect, and we have a great structural engineer. So you can ask the person that is going to potentially do the project for those references. If you feel comfortable with them, ask them. Or, you know, you can go to like the Christian Blue pages, or the Yellow pages, or Google, Yelp, stuff like that.
That's one of those things too, to kind of add to that just a little bit. I know that almost seems backwards. You're asking the contractor you may potentially work with, you know, if they know somebody, but it almost, like I said, it almost seems a little backwards. But consider it like this: for the continuity and the flow of the project, having somebody that contractor's worked with before and that you have that relationship is always nice, because that keeps things moving along really well. Great question.
Yes, sir, with the Magnum PI mustache.
You mentioned subcontractors. What kind of subcontractors and who are they?
The question was, what are some of the subcontractors that are typically used? For us, we have all W-2 employees. So anybody who shows up to your home wearing a black shirt like this is a W-2 employee. What we do use for subcontractors, and it's not bad when people use subcontractors. Always. Sometimes it is. If they do nothing but sub, sometimes that can be a problem. But for example, for our company, we have a master plumber and a master electrician. These are the kind of people that, if it's something that's beyond our scope, or we need to pull a permit for that kind of thing, you want a professional, somebody who does it all the time. We can do it, but that doesn't mean we're great at it.
Anything that requires licensing, generally speaking, and again, going back to your question, ma'am, you know, that architect or that engineer would also need that specialized licensing that, you know, the average person just, you know, doesn't have.
Yes, sir.
Back to her first question. You mentioned some jobs you want to get the architect first to get the plans drawn up before you hire contractors. You also said that you want some contractors, which architect. Kind of a chicken and egg thing. Which job would you want to plan ahead of time? Which would you want to talk to contractors?
Well, it kind of depends.
What's the question, guys?
Oh, the question. The question is it a chicken and egg thing? We've kind of done both ways. Whether you hire your designer first or your architect first and then hire your contractor, or vice versa. Sometimes, a great way to do it is if you're getting a deck or something and you know what you want in your mind, then you can have them draw it out, because if it needs a permit, they're going to need a drawing. And again, you want to get a drawing to make sure everybody's bidding on the same thing. So at that point, you would get it before. But other times, if you don't know what you want, you found a contractor that you're comfortable with and you haven't gotten to that point, then you can ask them for who they recommend or who they work well with. We have a couple of people that we work really well with. We love to work with designers because they make our work look even better.
No, you did great. Perfect.
So yeah, I did great.
Yes, ma'am.
You have out-of-state connections for own condo somewhere and an architect or contractor. All you guys
Chase, can you hear?
I believe the question was, do we have out-of-state connections for architects and stuff like that? So if you like a condo in Florida, yeah, do we have out-of-state connections if they have a project that's out of state that they need a hand with? A lot of times, certain people deal with people who are national, other people deal with people who are local. A lot of the people, most of the people that we deal with are local, but we do have some national contracts. And it's kind of a crapshoot. It depends on from person to person. But anybody who does good work is going to be happy to pass someone else who does good work their information along to you. Does that answer your question? Okay. What did I miss? This wonderful lady owns property in Seattle, Washington, and she was asking if we have contacts out there. I don't know of any that we do have out there. But Ryan would know better than me.
Well, it really kind of depends. I mean, some of us, you just never know. I think my famous tagline is the answer's always no until you ask. So, you can always ask and see if that's available. One of the things is this just a separate, like a vacation type place? Okay. I would add if it's a relocation type of thing. Usually a relocation company, kind of keeps a bank of information, for the areas that they, frequent. But generally speaking, we kind of function our best within 275.
We're West Siders, you know what I mean? So any adjustment is difficult. We have to have a passport to go to Northern Kentucky. One thing you can consider, though, is if you're a member of Angie's List, or you can call the Better Business Bureau, because that's a national organization. So that might be a good resource for you.
Oh, yeah.
How many full-time employees do you have?
The question was how many full-time employees we have. There's six full-time, and then there's Ryan and me, which isn't all the time.
Yeah.
Does that answer your question? Okay.
Do you do a lot of subcontracting?
Sorry?
Do you do a lot of subcontracting?
The question was, do we do a lot of subcontracting? No, not most of the time. We try to self-perform almost everything that we do. And if we're going to come to your home and do a project, the relationships that we have with our subcontractors, we like to have small family-owned businesses like ourselves. And typically when there's work being done in the house, if there's a subcontractor there, there's a representative of our company there. And another great thing, and I'm not trying to grandstand here, but she asked the question is, when you hire a general contractor, that should be the only person that you should have to write checks to and make phone calls to. It is not your job to call and see where the electrician or where the plumber is. That is the general contractor's job. It's part of what you pay him for.
I want to just kind of tag on to that real briefly. Not to get all whatever political or whatnot, but we feel very strongly about having employees and keeping good and making good jobs. That's kind of our passion, and that's why we do things the way that we do. We kind of keep seeing things shipped overseas and all that and whatever. And we feel like this is our little contribution and to that, but also we can really control things a whole lot better if there are our folks. You know what I mean?
And also, like my brother said, creating jobs is something that we're passionate about. How many people here have had a job that they hated? We want to create an environment where people want to come to work. We don't expect everybody to jump out of bed in the morning and say, "Woo, work today!" We don't expect that. But having a good job is one of the things that can really impact your life. Yes? Would you agree with that statement? And that's what we're trying to create.
She has another question.
So you self-part the job out. You're still guaranteeing that their work is going to be good.
The question was, if we're subbing something out that, let's say the electrical work, then that responsibility falls on my company because I bear the liability for that. So I'm going to make sure that that person does their job right. And if there's a problem, we're going to get somebody else in there. If we were to have a problem, we've used all our subcontractors for quite some time, so we've ironed that out. But things do happen. But yes, that is your general contractor's responsibility to make sure that all the work is done in a complete and workmanlike fashion.
And again, that goes back to if you do hire somebody who kind of walks you through the whole project, that's really one of the benefits of you can be your own GC, you can call your own electrician, call your own decorator, you can call your own plumber and all that. And you know, there's even a savings there sometimes. But what most people find is they really want to deal with one person, write one check, and have that flow of work. And most importantly, have a good relationship between each of the subcontractors who come in and out. You may GC the project, but I might not know your drywall, and we might not be accustomed to working together. Even though we might get along great, we just might not have that relationship. Well, we won't have that relationship of, okay, where he leaves off and where I start sometimes. You know what I mean?
And with construction, there is a definite rhythm to things. When you're used to working with certain people, you work way faster than you do when you're working with strangers, just because there's a level of comfortability. My plumber and my electrician know that they can come and pull anything out of my truck that they want. And if there's a problem, that they can ask me for help. The other thing is any subcontractor wants the work that has a relationship with the general contractor, wants that work to be supreme. Because honestly, we provide our plumber and our electrician with a lot of work that they don't have to advertise for, and that's a savings for them.
The other thing too is don't just consider that the subcontractors are only while the job is in process. There's a whole series of subcontractors, a lot of times even before the project ever even starts. So again, the architect, sitting actually right behind you is our decorator. She does a lot of work for us, and she will always help get the project on the right track with the right things. So, those are examples of things that happen long before the project ever starts. One of the things I always emphasize is, the actual duration of the project goes well because of the preparation. Never, ever shortchange yourself on the relationship building that comes in front of that, the education that comes in front of that, and everything. Every ounce of energy you put into the project to plan it well before it kicks off will pay off. Again, our little tagline is, we want you to enjoy your project, not survive it.
The other thing is, the subcontractors of the company will reflect the values of the greater company most of the time. For example, we're a Christian-based company, okay? We don't want people that are negative. We don't want people that don't want to be in this industry because they represent our company poorly and they cause us a lot of time, a lot of heartache. It can cause us our reputation. So the same thing with our employees. I just put an ad out to advertise an open position because we're hiring, and I said, I will only hire people that are positive and want to do this for a living. I will not tolerate any negativity, dishonesty. It's just, I didn't start a business so I could deal with people like that. And I won't drag people like that into your home.
Yes?
Do you work with home elevators?
Elevator.
Elevators?
Home elevators.
The question was, do we do home elevators? We don't personally do elevators. I do have a great contact. My mother-in-law is sitting right there. She had an elevator put in her home, and I know the owner of that company is a great person. They do beautiful work. So we'd be happy to pass that information along to you. They're called vertical systems.
How much do you do
Solar.
solar?
Depending on the project, sometimes we can get into some solar. We also have a guy that is in one of our groups that runs a company called Sunlight Power. It's a Christian-based company. They take solar panels into places like Honduras, like way deep into the jungle, places where people have literally never seen a light bulb turned on, and brings power to schools and stuff like that. So it's not something that we do a lot of, but we do have resources available that that you can talk to and get a better idea about what you're doing, what you want to do, and what you don't want to do.
So much of the process, is just, again, your comfort level, being able to ask the questions, and anybody who really cares enough to be in your home, to be in a service business, should be right there with an answer. And if they don't know the answer, be honest enough to tell you that they'll take a little bit of time to research and get back to you. So, how are we looking on time, John? Really? Wow. We went through that pretty quick. Anybody else have any other questions?
We've got plenty of time for questions. We've got the whole hour. We don't have to keep you here. I mean, we don't want to hold you hostage or prisoner, but you did come. We'd like to give you, any tips that you need. Yes, ma'am.
A question I got earlier was, will you build an entire house?
The question was, will we build an entire house? That is not something that we do. We specialize in remodeling. The new construction world is different than remodeling for a lot of different reasons. Again, we do have friends in the industry, people that we know, quality contacts that we can get in touch with you if that's something you need.
One of the trends we're seeing a little bit more of in the industry is because there are so many homes that are vacant, and there's so many foreclosures and things of that nature. One of the things that we're starting to see more of a trend of is people buying these homes and completely gutting the inside of it and then building to suit, or finishing to suit. So that is a newer trend, and that is something that we'll do. We won't build a house from scratch, but if it's an empty shell and it's got a roof on it and all that, we can take it from there. Also, custom homes. A lot of times that's another thing that ends up that way. Get kind of everything put together to where we can get down the inside and work, and then that's the difference between something that's everybody else gets and something that's just for you.
Yes, sir.
So say the project's underway, and you find one of those unexpected problems, like say the electrical wiring was off. What kind of questions are good for us to ask so that we know that that's a legitimate problem, so that we can feel comfortable spending extra money on something that you really don't want to spend your money on?
Okay, I'm going to make sure I get all this questions. I just want to make sure. So the question was, if there's unexpected expenses, say we open up your house, we realize that you have wiring. What's a good example of that is aluminum wiring. Anybody here at the Beverly Hills Supper Club fire? That was caused by aluminum wiring. Okay? What the question was is, his question was, what questions can I ask you, meaning me, to make sure that the cost is legitimate? Is that
what questions would I ask to make sure that I can feel comfortable that that's something real that needs to be fixed?
And what questions that he can ask the contractor to make sure that it's actually real, it's actually legitimate, and that the person isn't just trying to run away with their money?
I'd actually start before that. I think that's actually kind of more of a symptom question than a root question. Again, it goes back to hiring the right person the first time, which would be you have somebody you're comfortable with. I would throw back, you shouldn't have to ask. Anybody who really cares about you and who cares about what they're doing and wants to make it right would pull you aside, show you the problem. We're actually going through this exact problem right now. We took out a wall, and there's a huge cable feed that feeds a hot tub that's run illegally. So it's funny you ask that. The contractor should actually bring it to your attention and explain it to you, and in that process, describe to you why it's wrong. And then, as part of that educational process, that really gives you the ammunition, now that you know a little bit more about it, to ask some questions. Now that you know a little bit more about why this is wrong or what code it violates.
The other thing that you can do is if you want to call an independent person or look up information independently. I mean, if you want, you can go pick up an electrical code book and look it up. Look up some. I mean, it's going to be pretty wordy, but it can be done. It would arm you with some questions. You can also call another electrician if you want to. If you think, say you're getting hosed, if you've got a bad feeling about it, you can call in somebody else for a consultation, and you could probably pay them a consultation fee and say, hey, is this legitimate? Is this not legitimate? How does this look to you? The other thing, you could probably call a home inspection company. I think. Yep. If you were really, and that's another reason. That's another reason to get permits, because of, the state will come in and inspect it and say, hey, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong, this is right. And you can even go down to the permit office and ask them questions there. They'd be happy to take time to answer some of your questions. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay.
Really pulling permits is a safeguard for you at the end of the day, for that reason.
That was a good question. I'm sorry we had to go through so many tongue-twisting exercises to answer it. Any more questions? Bueller. Okay, some people got their check. That makes me feel better.
All right, well, folks, I don't mean to point you out, but we're just at the end of our session here, kind of doing a Q&A. So if you have any questions you might want to throw out there, feel free.
Anybody want some more candy? I got plenty up here.
All right, well, thank you all very much for coming to the Home Garden Show. Like my brother said, we're over there, way over there on booth 941, and we'd be really happy to talk to you. Thank you very much for coming. It means a lot to us.
Have a great show, people.